sequence. I get a little bit manic with my book, with my like preparation books and whatnot. So thanks to Mickey, I was brought on about a month and a half prior, so there's tons of rehearsal, and he walked me through the whole film through rehearsal, and even what days were going to be what, and how the days were going to be structured. So he's like, it's going to be more emotional here, then, so you know, you can carry this arc here, and then in the evening, you know, we're going to do this. So he planned it in such a way that's so thoughtful to everybody working on it. You know what I mean? To structure it in that way. So it let me kind of track out, based on the scenes, kind of the sun, the varying sun, and the time, and the heat stroke, and the water depletion, and the injuries ensued, and the hours walking, and people I'd encountered. So on the day, if I needed a reference, I was able to go, okay, scene 22, I've been almost killed, and I met dead people, and so it was, I have 7 hours of heat stroke, so I could kind of track it through that way. So that was, my boards look like something akin to the end of Homeland. It's just like a giant extremes.
So Larry, this is the second kind of Western you've done, which was not a Glass Eye film, but had a Glass Eye veteran behind it, and that you came in and did an acting role for. So what was the experience of this one? Did you just kind of fly in for the day, do your thing, and take off, or were you kind of around for more of the shoot?
No, it was pretty much that. I always, Mickey's invited me to be in all his movies, so I usually take the call, and I was able to come out. We had one great day. It was really exciting working with Ashley. That's just how it works. Mickey was my intern years ago, and he's really on fire, and I always loved his enthusiasm. So another intern. Here we go. So I just always wanted to support his work, and I think he's really a maniac, and he loves film. From the moment I met him, I just had so much enthusiasm. So sure, I've always been happy to support.
And yet all of these people who cast you in their films make you suffer and die.
Well, I don't pay very well. I don't pay well, to be honest. I don't know what it is. This is the face, you know.
So the movie has an amazing sound design. So was it a surprise for you when you saw the film? I mean, to see it put together, and especially with that incredible sound work on it.
Of course. I mean, when I think I mainly saw it with everything all put together up at Sundance, and to see it with that midnight audience was just out of this world. It's such a huge honor. That it's on your dream list of things to make it to Sundance. You can't work towards that. You just do what you do, and so to have kind of everybody's work acknowledged in that way. And the soundscape was huge. And Mickey, what's so cool about his scripts is that he's written in a lot of sound cues in his scripts, so you can kind of get a flavor for what it's going to feel like and what it's going to look like at the end. One of the things I was privy to, which was awesome, was that Thai music. They found those early on, I think in my first meeting ever with him, and he began to play this music. And it had already felt special from the script, but then when you hear that music, you're like, okay, this is everything I hope it's going to be, with that bent vision, and just they're going that way with it, which is just such the right way, such a cool, perfect sound for what the film is.
Any questions from the audience?
Yes.
Over here.
Yes, whereabouts in California was the movie filmed?
It was filmed about an hour and a half north of LA.
And was that the actual? And I presume it was indeed a true story.
Yes, it was based on true stories. Mickey had been kind of collecting stories of, for lack of a better word, shit that happens in the desert. And these really, really weird instances where people start driving, something happens to somebody, or couples get, couples pull over on the side of the street and something happens, and then people are lost and then found, or what remains of them are found places. And Mickey kind of been piecing the stories together of all these strange events that occur, especially in the 70s when you don't have cell service in local anything. So that it was pieced together from those.
So there was an actual place, Carnage Park. Was there an actual place?
Yes, it lives in Mickey's mind.
Okay.
You can get mugs. I went to Carnage Park, and all I got was this lousy mug.
Yeah. Anyone else? Back there.
My question is for Ashley. Like this role, it was really like physically like challenging. That's what it looked like, and you guys looked like are in this like blistering hot sun. And how was it like doing a role like that? Because you were like everywhere, and you throwing around and running around and stabbing and stuff. Like how was it like physically? And is this like the start of maybe a like later on doing some more like crazy action roles?
Oh, I love, yes, on the action role stuff. I love getting this physical with the character, and you know, every character you kind of pull from what you've learned to prepare for it differently, and it was so helpful to actually be allowed to do so much of the physicality, or all of it pretty much, because you kind of get a feeling of the sense of, okay, this is where we are, these are the elements I'm in, this is how strong she's got to be to get through this. This is the spirit she's got to have. But yeah, we were, there were rattlesnakes on set. there were bees, a very, very strong contingency of bees that dominated the craft food service table. And that was a small battle. But yeah, everybody was in for the long haul, you know what I mean? I at least got to go under a tent in the meantime with crew while I was like out totally sunburned way more than I was. But interestingly, in terms of sequentially, it reminded me that when I emerged from the cave, that was actually like one of the last shots of the film. And to have that moment with everybody on set, you know what I mean, around, and the sun was like just setting, we were like racing it, that was a really cool moment where I'm sunburned, everybody's sunburned, we've all been through this just like fake blood for days, and it was really an awesome moment to kind of end on that note, yeah.
And you're back in his next film as well.
I am.
Can you talk at all about that one? Did you roll in it?
Yes, it's a film called Psychopaths. It's completely different than this. It's a romantic comedy. It's a romantic comedy a love letter to psychopaths. It feels and looks completely different to this. Like Mickey is, he's the real deal, for lack of better words, and that whatever he's done, he wants to do the complete opposite to show this other side of him, and it looks and feels totally different. I play a full-blown psychopath that lives in a delusional reality that she's in a Hollywood musical number at all times. Very
Ashley's
brief.
amazing in it. I've seen it. It's superb. True cinema. Yeah, that's amazing.
Are you there also?
I have not seen
I'm not telling.
Do you sing and dance?
I do, but not in the movie.
So, what's your view on Mickey's career? He's of all the independent filmmakers active today, he's the one who does everything different every time. A lot of directors kind of find a niche early, and he has such variety to his work. So, do you want to talk about that a little bit, about watching him kind of proceed through his career so far?
Well, he called me recently and said, would I play a gangster in his gangster movies? But I know he has another thing cooking as well. He's pitched me a lot of different movies, so it's just fun the variation in his themes and you know, everything from sci-fi to non-horror. So I mean, he's a cinephile first and foremost, and when you talk to Mickey, he's always in a tear. It's either an Altman tear or something, and it affects, I think, the choices he makes. And he goes in there and he really analyzes and explores what's effective about those filmmakers. So I think the volume of his work is what we'll always talk about when we speak about his early stuff. All of these movies, I mean, he does 3 movies a year practically. What I look forward to is when he slows down and starts to mature and shape and get deeper into a given story, because what I love about his work is just watching the technique, and that's why Psychopaths is so special, because there's almost no script. It's pure cinema. It really is what he does so well. So the fun thing is that there's still a lot of, I think there's a long way to go to see Mickey truly blossom into the great filmmaker he can be, because I think how he approaches story. And he's lucky to have really committed actors, and that has to do with his enthusiasm, and that gives a realism to all his technique. And I think it's just, he's going to keep developing, but getting that blend is where he'll really knock it out of the park of technique and also visceral, emotional storytelling.
So can you talk a bit about what Glass Eye has cooking right now?
We have Psychopaths. We did do that. Jen made it out in the West Coast for Mickey. And I think we've announced, we made a sequel to Steakland, which
Yes.
is kind of fun.
Oh.
Steakland's an old movie of ours.
Can you talk a bit about that? There's been very little information released so far.
The most to say about it is it'll come out this year, one way or another, and we shot it up in Canada, and it stars Nick D'Amici and Connor Palo. So the original cast returns, and it's another episode in the devastating world of vamps. So it's really fun, and I've just watched the cut last night where it's amazing. The two boys who made it made a movie called Body. It's a small film, and this is a huge leap for them. So we're very excited. Peter Polk, one of my producers, he made it up in Canada. So we'll see about that, and then we have a lot of other little movies cooking. But I like to talk about them when they're done.
Any other questions?
Any interesting stories about working with Alan Ruck? He is, of course, most famous for Ferris Bueller's Day Off. So I'm just wondering, any interesting experiences working with him on the set, or anything that's interesting to share about what it's like to work with him?
Shoot, I wish Mickey was here. I had like one afternoon with Alan, the way it was shot, and the way schedules were, it was just for that moment where it's perfectly timed, that with the stab and everything like that, and he was beyond incredible to work with. So nice and so game, and I remember, as the scene is shot in pieces, because there's so much action and moving parts and prosthetics and stuff, I just remember him laying on the floor, and there's this somebody's pumping the blood, and there's this huge blood pool forming around him, and he's kind of, he's being great. And I looked out, I'm like, oh my God, there's Alan Ruck on He's doing great. And there's this puddle. I just had a fangirl moment myself. He's amazing. He's everything I hope he's going to be.
I think I've been remiss. I haven't brought up the great Pat Healy yet, who's great in everything. He's great in this too. How is it working with him?
Pat is awesome, really. And I mean, I know that word is so overused, but if I had kids, I would not let Pat babysit my children. But you look into his eyes, it makes every scene come alive. There's always something going on, and always you feel obviously very safe working with him, and because you're comfortable, the scenes can then go off and come to life in the way you hope they will. When you first read the script, he's just fantastic to work with.
Any other questions? Yeah.
So, speaking of that, because I noticed, you've gone through such incredible lengths in this movie, what do you think is the best way that a director can sort of establish that kind of confidence with their cast, and what kind of behavior have you experienced where it's just totally shattered the dynamic?
We both know. For me, I love the rehearsal process. I mean, luckily, I got brought on about a month and a half earlier, and there was a rehearsal process. So
How did that rehearsal process for this work about you guys?
yeah, so there was a lot of just talking through the scenes with Mickey, and also talking on how they were going to kind of be shot and all the pieces, because you see all the action, and you're like, how's this going to happen? How's this going to work? What are the components? What are the moving parts? So to have him almost walk me through that, I was like, oh, fantastic. I could kind of see that, and kind of we could, you read something on the page, but then to have kind of those big scenes, though I got it, to have Mickey say, this is and this and this and this. I'm like, oh wow, okay. He's so clear and he's so definite that it's so helpful to kind of to guide in acting. Since there's such a clear intention. And then he arranged time for us all the actors to meet. So we know the scenes we have to go to. So we were able to shake hands and make eye contact and be like, okay, we're cool. And to kind of read through it a couple of times, so to know on the day it wasn't, of course you can do it on the day, that's no problem. But to have that familiarity, and luckily everybody was in town and everything like that, that was really great. That made it seem, and Mickey also does something he's so collaborative, where he kind of he opens the door to say, if you find something, if you want to do something with the character, if you want to try something, share it or tell me about it, and just that door is open. It's just incredibly generous of a director with that strong of a vision to even have that trust, you know what I mean? But his enthusiasm overall is what sent us all through the desert. We're like, we could stay, like, we could keep going, we would all go to the end of the world for him. Yeah.
It is profound to have rehearsal in a movie. It's the most clinical experience being in a film, especially if you're a small role. You just show up, you barely know your co-star, and of course we hit it off because we just became friendly, and I think you were already in it so deep that you could be generous to a day player. But it's really, if you're asking as a director to fight for rehearsal, especially if you're still independent, you don't have a bunch of managers and agents getting in the way, you should really say, let's meet. Remember, you're setting the stage for these actors to feel comfortable with each other. They're going to have more ideas if they know each other and comfortable. It's really worth fighting for, especially if you're a low budget and you have the time and it's a local shoot. It means everything. It's all the difference in the world.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, well, thank you very much for coming down. First here at IFC. If you like it, tweet, Facebook, whatever, let people know it's here, tell them to come on down. And thank you for coming.